Good afternoon. Welcome. I'm so excited to see everybody here. Who here likes, well, I guess you guys all like curry and Thai food. My wife Elise here says if we had to go eat one kind of food for the rest of our lives, it would be Thai food. So she's really excited. I say she's a bit of a Thai food snob, so she can like tell if it's authentic or not. But so is anybody here Thai? No? All right. So we're saved. Okay. Well, the rice is 7 minutes away, but they had me do a little health nugget at the beginning, so I'll just skip and start with that right now. Introduce myself. Thank you, Pastor. So I'm Dr. Soren Esperesco. I'm an anesthesiologist and pain specialist. As I tell most people, I hope you never have to come see me professionally. You can just meet me here because I'm very passionate about healthy eating. Part of the problem is every day I see sickness and suffering and lifelong consequences oftentimes from choices we make. And so it's really my passion to help people make better and healthier choices so you can really enjoy life more. So the questions I was supposed to answer are, what are some of the benefits of a whole foods plant-based diet? So let's go over the first thing. What's a whole food? Anything from the garden. The way I like to say it, the way God made it, right? So if it on a tree in the ground or a plant, right, that's a whole food, right? The more you process foods, the worse it is, right? What are some examples of some processed foods? Cheese, crackers, spumoni. Anything in a package. That's in a can. Anything in the middle of the store. That's right. Just stick to the outside of the store. So some of the things, again, let me just pick on a few things. Oil, right? The Mediterranean diet is healthy because of oil, right? Wrong. Oh, you guys are A students. That's good. So a lot of times people pick kind of the worst thing in the Mediterranean diet and say, oh, well, it's Mediterranean, so I'm going to douse it full of olive oil, right? If you take 100 pounds of olives and you squeeze it down and take all the fat out and put it into a little bit, does that sound healthy? So that's a processed food. And so one food we really want to avoid. What else? Grains, oftentimes they process it, means you split up the food the way it comes on the tree or grows on the plant. So again, even bread, especially white bread, I mean, that's the worst. But you really want to stick to the healthiest is like whole grains, like brown rice. Right? That would be much healthier. It's less processed. And of course, whole grain bread, but it's really, really hard to find true whole grain bread that's not processed much. So you want to avoid processed food. And those are very much linked to health issues. What else? So by Whole Foods, we also today are promoting what's called a plant-based diet. So plant-based means, where do you get your protein? From plants. You're not getting it recycled secondhand, right? Because people talk about the biggest animal, right? The elephant. Where does he get his protein? The moose out here, the biggest animal we have here. Where does he or she get their protein, right? Plants. And one of my other favorite things to talk about is these moose have these big paddles on their head, right? Guess what they're made of? But calcium. And once they're weaned, they don't drink milk. So they're getting all the calcium they need and all the protein they need from plant sources. So you too can get all the protein you need, all the calcium you need from plant sources. And again, you don't have to be perfect. You can eat, as long as you eat a variety, it's not like you have to be really meticulous and count everything. If you're eating a normal amount of calories, with a normal diet, meaning fruits, vegetables, grains, roots, you're going to get all the protein you need, all the nutrition you need from those sources. So you don't have to stress, because for a while people were stressing about getting whole proteins and this and that. Nobody, unless you're dying of cancer or AIDS or something like that, nobody in America is protein deficient. It doesn't exist. We're fiber deficient because most Americans get twice the protein they need, but only get half the fiber they need. So when people ask you, where do you get your protein? We'll ask them, where do you get your fiber? Because most Americans are not getting fiber. Does milk have fiber? Does meat have fiber? No. So common, thing I see in older people, right? Digestion, constipation, those become issues, right? And so what you need for that is water and fiber to keep things moving through your system, right? One of the other areas I've been super fascinated with is learning about what's called the human biome. It's become much cheaper to sequence DNA now, and so we're just learning about the bacteria in our gut. And guess what? There's more of them than there are of you. Kind of creepy, but very interesting. So you're carrying around about 6 pounds of gut bacteria. So about 6 pounds of your weight is your gut bacteria. And those bacteria can be your friends or they can be your enemies, right? So you want to encourage them to be your friends. So that means you want to feed them the healthiest foods possible, what they like to eat. And guess what they like to eat? Fiber. So they love, fiber. So that's where if you eat an apple, right, it's full of fiber. You eat beans, full of fiber. You eat whole foods, they're full of fiber, and they're going to keep the bacteria in your gut happy, and that's going to keep you healthy. So super important thing to remember with the whole food. So you want to make sure you get plenty of fiber. In your whole foods, you want to avoid processed foods, avoid oil. Again, oil is very, very high in fat. That's something else to remember with the oil. That's a pressure cooker. Those are fun. If you don't have one, you need to go buy one. Well, they're super awesome because it's like a crock pot and pressure cooker all in one, so you can cook potatoes in 3 minutes. So, all right, so we talked about fiber. Now I want to switch gears, one more gear, which is what are the healthiest vegetables for you? Leafy greens, that's very, very good. So not all vegetables are the same, right? Iceberg lettuce, right? Is that the healthiest one? No. But oftentimes when you ask people, about their diet, they're like, oh, I like salad, but what's on their salad? Iceberg lettuce, and then it's got a bunch of cheese and meat and all these other stuff, right? So not super healthy. Not all vegetables are equal. And so since you can only eat so much, you really want to choose the healthiest one. So the healthiest one, somebody mentioned, I heard cruciferous. Dark leafy greens, that's right. And a lot of the cruciferous or dark leafy greens. What are some cruciferous vegetables? Broccoli, bok choy, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, spinach, that's right, spinach, kale, that's right, chard. So those are all the best, the healthiest. And before coming here, I just watched a Dr. Greger video on it, and it's so fascinating. As far as their cancer-killing ability, the dark leafy greens are at the very top consistently. You look at prostate cancer and lung cancer and breast cancer, and over and over and over, those dark leafy greens have the power to kill cancer cells. And do they harm your cells? No, they're amazing. They somehow know that they fight cancer, so they can reduce your risk of cancer, but they don't harm your cells, so they help you. So cruciferous vegetables are super awesome, and that's one great thing about the Asian cuisine. There's a lot of cruciferous vegetables and a lot of great ways of incorporating them into your diet. And then the other one I want to talk about was, what's the other food that kills everything? Garlic, there you go. So garlic is super awesome, super powerful in stopping cancer. So that whole allium family, which is like garlic, leeks, and onions. So again, I don't know, let your friends deal with it, but you're better off eating it and not having cancer than having them visit you in the hospital while you have cancer. So those are some of the top antioxidant foods that I would highly recommend you to eat. We're close. Okay, so we're not quite there yet. Oh, I can keep talking. Well, let me just go over, because I wrote some notes for myself here this morning so some of the benefits of a whole food plant-based diet. This is from Forks Over Knives. So how much cholesterol is in broccoli? 0. How much cholesterol is in lettuce? Right? So plant foods have no cholesterol. So let me ask you a question. If you're trying to lower your cholesterol, what's better? Take a drug that lowers your cholesterol, or to stop eating cholesterol? Right? I mean, that's common sense, and it's really amazing when you look at these centers where they'll take people, put them on a healthy diet. Guess how fast their cholesterol drops? It drops like a rock, so to speak. Cholesterol will drop very quickly if you stop eating high-fat foods and if you stop eating cholesterol. So what foods have cholesterol? So animal products. So what about milk? Does that have? Yes. Guess what the number 1 and number 2 sources of cholesterol in the American diet are? Cheese and chicken, right? Because people always want to tell me they eat a healthy diet. So they eat, and usually what they want to tell you is they eat a lot of chicken and fish. Does chicken have cholesterol? Yep. Fish have cholesterol? Yep. So even though, they got the omega-3 fatty acids and things that may be beneficial, but so do flax seeds. So you're much better off getting it from a plant source and not getting that cholesterol. Cholesterol, as far as things that are linked to heart disease, cholesterol is always number 1. The most, what's that? Yeah, the most damaging. So if you want to do one thing to reduce your risk of a heart attack and coronary heart disease, what should you do? Lower your cholesterol. That's why the doctors want to put you on statin. And, that's fine to a certain extent, but wouldn't it be better to do it without a drug and do it in a tasty way? That's the fun part I love about, healthy cooking. Who here likes to eat? Yes, I love to eat. I love to eat, right? But you can let food be your medicine and not take a bunch of pills and, spend. It's another thing in my field of pain management. So often I see people, right? You work hard your whole life. You're successful. You have a job. You come to this retirement. You're super excited about everything you're going to do. And guess what you're doing? You're going from doctor to doctor with a handful of pills and end up in the hospital and getting this test and that test. What way to live is that, right? You worked all these years to achieve that? No. You really want to live life to the fullest and have that health, and I think you can, and still enjoy yourself by eating. Because guess what? When you eat plant foods, you get to eat more, right? And people always want to tell you like, oh, you eat, they hear I'm a vegetarian, they say, oh, I like salad. Well, guess what? There's a lot more to eating plant foods than just salad, and that's part of what you're going to see here today. So let's talk about preventing and reversing heart disease. A whole foods, plant-based diet is the only diet that I know of and has been scientifically shown to actually reverse heart disease. If you follow the diet from the American Diabetic Association, American Heart Association, guess what those things do? Those diets help you not get as bad as quickly as eating a standard American diet. But if you really want to be healthy, a whole food, plant-based diet is scientifically proven in lots of studies, not just 1 or 2 studies that show that. Obesity, again, very much linked. If you eat plant foods, how many animals in the wild are obese? Right? We don't see them. The only animals that are obese are the ones that humans overfeed with this processed, cat and dog food. So when you eat a whole foods, plant-based diet, you're much more likely, when you're eating food the way God made it, you're much more likely to maintain a proper weight. We talked about lowering your risk of cancer, because I already mentioned that. These foods, we make a smoothie just about every morning. And part of what I put in there is a bunch of dark leafy greens, cruciferous, which will either be kale that we grow or spinach. And so I look at that as my chemotherapy, right? Your way of preventing cancer. You can never get to 0 because there's cancer-causing things, there's bad genetics, there's all kinds of different reasons. So, you can never say you're never going to get cancer, but you can certainly reduce your risk and put things on your side. So we talked about slowing progression of certain types of cancer. Even rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmune disease can improve with diet, and you're going to improve your overall quality of life. Want to talk, I think we got just a couple more minutes here. And by the way, I just got to mention, you guys have no idea how much work these ladies did. Let's give them a round of applause. They came, and Lee back there, you'll see him when he stands up. He's taller than the rest of us. But, these ladies did so much work and were here early last night and for weeks have been planning. And so I get to show up and eat. And but they do so much of this work. So I want to appreciate them for that. But let's talk about the top killers in America. What's the number 1 killer in America? Right? Heart disease. And I probably say this over and over, but People worry about terrorism and all these terrible things, right? Yeah, there's a place for those. But what you should worry most about is what's on your plate, because that's the most likely thing to kill you, right? Heart disease, as Dr. Esselstyn says in the movie Forks Over Knives. You guys seen that movie, Forks Over Knives? It's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. Same with What the Health, if you're trying to get a good overview on it. But Dr. Esselstyn says, heart disease is a toothless lion, right? It roars. It's, if you watch just the media and you walk by all the magazines when you check out, right? Heart disease is such a bad thing, and, we all know people that have been killed by heart disease, or people look healthy and they keel over dead, right? Heart disease, number one killer in America. I think the numbers on these statistics, it's about 600, let me see here, 696,000, so almost 700,000 deaths a year from this. And I tell people, I'm like, the Vietnam War, right? Anybody been to that memorial? It's pretty sad. About 50,000 people on that. Well, guess what? More people than that die every month in America because of heart disease. So if people want to be outraged about something, it should be about heart disease, because it is a toothless lion. You can, to a large extent, completely reduce your risk of a heart attack by eating a healthy diet. And again, there's genetics and those things, but you can, by far and large, there's countries in Africa, entire countries, that have no heart disease. One of the studies, they talked about 1,000 autopsies that they looked at. Not one guy had a minor little heart attack. That's it. No heart disease, entire population. So when you look at the China study and other things, heart disease is very much a lifestyle disease. It's a disease of affluence. As I talk about, you look at old pictures of all the kings and stuff, right? They're all overweight, and the peasants are all skinny, right? Because the peasants exercise and they're eating plant foods because they can't afford these, the more high-fat foods, these rich foods that clog up your arteries. So, again, the coronary vascular disease. Number 2 killer in America. Cancer. Anybody here know anybody that's had cancer or has cancer? I'm sure every hand goes up. If I asked if anybody knows somebody that's died in the last year of cancer, probably just about every hand goes up. Right? I've had people tell me that back in the day they didn't know anybody that had cancer, but today everybody's got cancer. Now, there's probably numerous causes for that, but one of the main ones, I think, is our diet and this explosion of pre-made foods and fast foods and all this garbage, and I'll put the pesticides, we'll save that talk for another day, but I don't think those are helping, the glycophosphates that are, I think, causing a lot of these wheat intolerances and things we're seeing. But anyway, cancer, number 2 killer. Can you totally prevent cancer, that you'll never get cancer? No. Heart disease, I'm much more confident saying you can really reduce your chances to very close to zero. But cancer, there's a lot more factors to cancer. But you can reduce your chances, right? So if you're going into battle, do you want big tanks and warships, or do you want like little puny cap guns or rocks or something, right? What do you want? So that's what I was talking about. Certain foods are much more powerful at preventing cancer, and other foods are much worse. Let me give one more example. And these taste so good, I'm sorry, but it's true. Right, oil, as you heat up oil, it creates free radicals, right? Carcinogens. So guess what? When you get these little potatoes, right? Potatoes are healthy, right? They put them in these free radical soup that's heated, very high, and who knows how often they're changing it, right? Tons of free radicals. So you want to avoid those, and obviously the more you eat these cruciferous greens and allimed. So maybe if you only get 2 things out of this, well, 3 things. Eat more plant foods and cruciferous vegetables. Again, not all vegetables are the same. Cruciferous vegetables are the best. And then number 2, allimed, what is allium? Yep, the allium. That's a family of onions, leeks, and garlic. Super powerful for preventing cancer. So with that little introduction, I'm going to welcome our pastor from the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Pastor Alvaro Souza, to bless the food.
I invite you to bow your heads with me for prayer. Heavenly Father, we're so thankful for opportunities to connect with our community, to come together as friends. In the interest of health and good eating, we pray a blessing on our time here, a blessing on our food. May it truly nourish us and strengthen us. And may we learn a lot, helpful things that we can apply to our lives. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, Rhonda is going to tell us how to eat.
Do you know, I've been to India 3 times, and I think they were playing tricks on me because they've served this beautiful food. It was wonderful, but they had no utensils. We had to eat with our fingers. So you are so blessed. You don't have to eat with fingers. But we have rice, which is a brown basmati rice at the end, and there are about 4 things that go on top of that rice. So the rice is at the end. There's Asian salad. There are wraps, chapati, and a peanut sauce for the vegetable wraps. So that's what we're doing today.
Anybody has allergies?
Yes. The chapatis, of course, are not gluten-free. The wraps and the salad are gluten-free, and all the food is gluten-free. So if there are other allergies, sesame, cashew, let us know, and we'll tell you which things might have those things in it. Have a wonderful meal.
How are you going to dismiss people?
We're going to dismiss by tables, and we'll help serve the food so we can kind of get everyone going.
I'm a big fan of flaxseed. Everybody know what flax seeds are? So 2 things. They've been shown to reduce risk of prostate cancer. As you know, my dad had prostate cancer. I think most men, if you live long enough, you're going to get prostate cancer. And so, and it also helps with hormonal cancer, reduce your risks of all the hormone-related cancer. Again, and that's because of the phytoestrogens in them. So I love that part of it. There's a study they did. They took men with prostate cancer that were scheduled to have prostate surgery removed. They gave them, now I can't remember if it was 1 or 2 teaspoons of flax seeds a day to eat. And those tumors were significantly reduced to where some of those guys didn't even have to have their prostates removed from flax seeds. No other dietary change, just flax seeds. And it's kind of one of these things that, why not? So that's one big reason is the cancer, prostate cancer in men and breast cancer in females, which are some of the most common. The second reason I like flax seeds is the omega-3 fatty acids. Part of the reason is, and Dr. Greger has a great talk called 40-Year-Old Vegan Dies of a Heart Attack. So think of omega, your body is everything in balance. And so think of omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. They need to be in balance, and they should be like 1-to-1 or 1-to-3 or 5 or something like that. But a lot of vegetarians that are eating a lot of this processed garbage, I'm sorry for saying that, is that bad? But a lot of this processed food where you can get a lot of these omega-6 fatty acids, and omega-6 is inflammatory, omega-3 is anti-inflammatory. So that's why you don't really want to have them in a way skewed towards the omega-6 ratio. So flax seeds is a way of getting your omega-3, right? That's why they tell people to eat fish oil, and it reduces cholesterol and all those things with the omega-3, the anti-inflammatory effect. So I prefer to get them from a plant source, so I make 64 ounces. I saw a Vitamix here, but I make one of those things for our families, and I put one, yeah, there it is. So I put 1 cup, Alice, I think I put 1 cup of flax seeds to make one of those. I throw the whole thing in there. It just grinds it up. If you don't have you should get a Vitamix if you don't have one, because that thing will grind it up. Yeah. Coffee grinder will work too, but I just am too lazy to do 2 things, so I just throw them in there and I do 1 thing. Yes, ma'am.
I just wondered how much flaxseed you use on a daily basis.
So I make one of those 64-ounce things for our family of 6, and I usually drink a quart of it. So that's my way of trying to get my, I think it's 2 tablespoons a day for that prostate cancer study. So I try to get it. I say, why not? It's not going to hurt you. And so that's how I do it. Excuse me 1 second. Yes. Oh, you were next. Okay, I can't tell who's. Okay, so she mentioned that, she had a small silent heart attack. And of course, the doctors want to put you on statins. By the way, you know what the number one selling drug of all time is? Right, the statins. And guess what? If you're a pharmaceutical company, you can get 40-year-olds taking it for the rest of their life. Wouldn't that be fantastic? So there's a lot of money at stake here as far as in how they advise. But there's generally a resistance from physicians because they'll usually tell you, oh, it doesn't work. Oh, lifestyle doesn't work or whatever. Well, it probably doesn't work because most people aren't committed. And so you got to decide if you're committed or not committed to doing it. But I'm telling you, it works. It works. Like Dr. Swank. Anybody heard of Dr. Swank? Right? So the Dr. Swank, this is I forgot what year it was, but it was like getting close to 100 years ago. And actually, I think they still do this clinic, Cleveland Clinic or one of those clinics, does it, and you pay $5,000. All that includes is your food and doctor visit. Doesn't include your hotels. And guess what they feed you? Rice and fresh fruit. That's it. You get a scoop of rice and fresh fruit 3 times a day for $5,000 a month. And guess what happens? Your inflammatory diseases get better. Neurological diseases get better. Malignant hypertension. Before they had all these drugs, right? Before they had all these drugs, Dr. Swank would do it. And he even uses white rice, which isn't ideal. It's not even brown rice, but it works because they just put people on a strict plant-based diet and their blood pressure comes down. And this is before they had any drugs for malignant hypertension, so it would come down. So oatmeal is fantastic. I love oatmeal. I just did a short talk on it not too long ago. And oatmeal has a lot of cancer-fighting properties, too. I was kind of surprised on that. I thought oatmeal was just mostly fiber, and it's more like... But oatmeal is actually super nutritious and will lower your cholesterol, very much so. So I would encourage everybody, and especially people, because another complaint I get is people tell me, oh, well, yeah, I'd love to eat this healthy vegetarian lifestyle, but I can't afford it. But guess what? Oatmeal is cheap. Beans are super cheap. Rice is cheap. So a lot of these very healthy foods are not expensive. And so yeah, of course, if you want to buy organic, whatever, off season, you're going to pay through the roof for it. And if you can afford it, great. But if you can't, oatmeal is a really good food. Potatoes, right? We're in Idaho. I discovered one thing. Potatoes grow really well out here. And so potatoes, another healthy food, because if you look at the nutrition of a potato, it's not far different from the nutrition of an apple, right? Everybody says apples are healthy and potatoes, right? And people tell you they're trying to eat healthier. Oh, I stay away from potatoes, Doc. I avoid those carbs. Well, guess what's bad about eating potatoes? The butter, the gravy, the cheese, the bacon, the sour cream, all the stuff they put on it. But, potatoes are a super healthy food. And, they say during the Great Depression, some people were so poor that all they could afford was potatoes. That's all they had. And they were nutritionally just fine. So potatoes, another great food. So, I think if you just boil them, bake them, whatever you're going to do, just don't pour them full of oil and cheese and butter and all the other stuff. But potatoes are very healthy food. Yes, ma'am. Potatoes are antidepressant? Well, there you go. So Dr. McDougall says potatoes are antidepressants. So potatoes are a super healthy food, so don't be afraid of potatoes. Just be afraid of everything around them.
Did you say that again? Omega-6s were inflammatory? Omega-3
is anti-inflammatory. That's right. So a lot of these fish oil and things that people take for inflammation, those are omega-3s, and they're good for you. But the reason is I'd much rather prefer a version that doesn't have the cholesterol and the fat, and it's not a... What's that?
You can get it from the same place the fish.
That's right. You can get it from the same place the fish gets it. So don't get your food secondhand. Get it primary source, and get it. So yeah, and that's a really big deal, and that really hit me. And I've shared this up front too. But a number of people that I thought were healthy and looked very healthy, I've seen them have heart attacks, and it really, really bothered me. Why do these people that I know, nobody's perfect, but people that eat good diets, why did they have heart attacks? And And that prompted me to kind of go on this journey and figuring out what the causes of it. Vitamin B12 is another one. I don't recommend many supplements, but vitamin B12 is another one that's anti-inflammatory that vegans can get very, very low on. So make sure you, so vitamin B12 was one of my conclusions to reducing your risk of heart disease. Anti-inflammatory, it's important in so many different chemical processes in your body. And not the least of which being also eliminating toxins, because there's toxins everywhere in our clothes, in the air, and radiation from our phones. Vitamin B12? Was that the question? Like where do I get it? Or what foods? You know, the best foods is unwashed like carrots, because you get it from dirt. So I think in the old days you'd get it because it's in bacteria on the ground. So it always makes me happy when I see in our greenhouse our kids grab a carrot or a radish and they just eat it, right? They shake it off and eat it. But that's one of the few foods that if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, you're probably low on B12. And if you're low on B12, that can have some very serious neurological complications. So I encourage people to just take a supplement. Sublingual vitamin B12. It tastes like candy. I give it to my kids, to my wife. So we all take it. Absolutely. So B12 is big. So a lot of the neurological disorders, B12, and again, you can test yourself, but it's really easy to be low on vitamin B12. So let me just come back to that one second, Vivian. So my conclusions to that was, of course, being on a plant-based diet, the omega-3, vegans can oftentimes be low on omega-3 in vegetarians. So you need to make sure your diet is not full of processed foods. And that's where I added the flax seeds. So, yes, Vivian. So Magda is going to have a talk on herbs like turmeric, but they're super powerful antioxidants. And I'm a big fan of, so turmeric is known to be one of the most powerful anti-inflammatory and antioxidants. So I actually have, and I'm pointing to my knee because I had knee injuries, many years ago, and so that's something that bugs me on a regular basis. But I do take the turmeric, and a lot of Indian food is very high in turmeric, and Magda is going to give you a lot more detail on that. And you know what the number one? Those people that heard me do this talk, but what's the number one most powerful antioxidant whole food? It's a berry. It's Indian gooseberry, which is called amla. Who here got amla? Did anybody get amla? Yay. So it's the most powerful whole food antioxidant, helps with inflammation. So a lot of the spices can be very powerful anti-inflammatories, and they're definitely a good thing. So you want to incorporate them, and that's one of the good things about Indian food. Has anybody seen on YouTube? There's this Indian lady that's 106 years old cooking. Anybody seen her? I guess her granddaughter or great-granddaughter, whatever she is, started filming her, but she is crouched down, in the traditional way the Indians cook, and she cooks with their hands. And how many 100-year-olds in the West could sit there for half an hour, crouched with their knees totally bent? What's that? Anyway, it's just amazing. You watch this 106-year-old lady, cooking, and she seems totally sharp, strong, and bent all the way down. But I think the turmeric and the more natural diet that the Indians. By the way, when we travel, one of the places where you can eat, one of the questions is how do you eat healthy on the road, right? Because when you're on the road, and so two of the places we love going, you can always get vegan, good vegetarian, and especially vegan food at Thai restaurants and Indian restaurants. So those are two things we always look for when we travel. Yes? Okay, so that's another one of the myths. Should we eat every 3 hours, right? A lot of these modern diets, and again, the diets that you see when you check out at the check stand, it's always Dr. Oz's latest thing or whatever. They talk about eating all the time. Let me just put everything in your body is a balance. And for everything, there's something that makes it go up, and there's something that makes it go down. When you eat, what happens to your insulin levels in your body? It goes up. Very good. So when you eat, your insulin level goes up. Why does your insulin level goes up? Well, because there's probably some sugar and some starches in there that make your sugar go up. So then your body says, hey, my blood sugar is high, so we better turn on the insulin, because what does insulin do? It tells your body to take the sugar from the bloodstream and stuff it into your cells for storage, right? So does insulin make you fat or skinny? It makes you fat, right? So diabetics that are on tons of insulin, they're swimming upstream trying to lose weight. So when your body has too many calories, your body raises insulin to tell it to store the calories. So your body has a hormone that balances the other side of it, which is called glycogen. And glycogen is the opposite. It's when your body's blood sugar is low, your body releases glycogen that says, hey, pull that sugar out of storage because our sugar level's low, right? So it's got two hormones. Now, if you eat all day long, guess what's going to be high all day long? Your insulin levels. So that's going to promote growth. So you're basically all day long, you're putting stuff into storage. So if you're a pack rat and you're always putting stuff into storage, guess what's going to happen to you? You're going to expand. So that's one reason to not eat all day long, because I really think you need to have a balance between putting food into storage and taking food out of storage. And if you're eating all day long, your insulin levels are continuously high. You're never taking food out of storage. You know, one other thing is, who here has been hungry in the last week? You know, most Americans don't know what it is to be hungry because we stuff ourselves morning, lunch, dinner, snacks, right? We're always hungry. So that means you're always in food storage mode. Your body needs, and there's a ton of data that's coming out that's showing intermittent fasting is one of the healthiest things for you. And part of the reason is that's when your body's saying, hey, my sugar's low. You know, pull some of those calories out of storage, take them out of your reserves, and most of us have plenty of reserves. So that's where you really want to do intermittent fasting. And actually,
Explain what intermittent fasting is.
Intermittent fasting means we're not talking, a fast can be anything from, a day, a week. A week is pretty extreme for most, but like a day of fasting. But there's a new, very popular weight loss technique that my wife and I are doing, and not for weight loss, but for health reasons, which is the 16-8. Anybody heard about the 16-8 thing? Yes? That's exactly right. So you eating during an 8-hour window, and so you're fasting for 16 hours every week. And I got to go to a conference last fall. I met the head of computer technology for Kaiser Permanente, a big, huge organization. This guy's a doctor. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met or seen. Incredible guy. And I was talking about the data because, by the way, Kaiser now tells their physicians to recommend a whole foods plant-based diet. You know why? Because Kaiser is delivering the healthcare and also paying for the heart attacks, and they know the statistics that if they get people to eat healthier, they're going to save money and be able to offer their services and have higher profits. So Kaiser Permanente encourages a whole foods plant-based diet. Yes?
So how do you gain weight when you need to gain weight?
How do you gain weight? Let me just finish this thought with Kaiser. But one of the things he told me is that, the data is showing that plant foods are definitely healthier and the gut bacteria does much better with plant foods. But intermittent fasting is really healthy for your gut bacteria too. So that was a fascinating point. So your bacteria in your gut, they need to eat, but they also need a rest from eating. So now gaining weight. Most people don't have that problem, but certain foods are higher in fat. And so I would encourage people to eat higher fat foods if you need to gain weight, such as avocado, nuts. Nuts are very high in fat. Again, if you're trying to lose weight or trying to reduce your cholesterol very quickly, you want to avoid nuts. Like if you just had a heart attack, like Dr. Esselstyn and some of those guys tell you should have like very low nuts. But nuts are high in fat, avocados, and she makes a good point. She's very active physically, and you just have to eat more calories. And like Lance Armstrong, and when he was doing the Tour de France, and Michael Phelps, right, the swimmer, those guys eat 7,000 to 10,000 calories a day. And so those guys can eat everything in sight, but most of us aren't doing stuff that extreme, so we don't need 10,000 calories a day. Any other questions or thoughts? Yes. Cooked versus raw food. Okay, so I'm not. Some people are very strict with everything needs to be raw, but I think lycopene is kind of the classic example in tomatoes. Tomatoes have a substance called lycopene. It's very healthy. It helps reduce the risk of prostate cancer. And so when you cook foods, it actually increases the lycopene in the tomatoes. And so in certain other foods you can't really eat, like a bean. I mean, I guess certain beans you can, but certain foods have to be cooked. You just can't eat it like a raw potato. I don't know. I haven't known anybody eat raw potatoes. So certain foods taste a lot better cooked, so I don't see a problem with cooking your foods. You may lose some antioxidants, but I think as long as you're eating a variety of foods and eating your, spinach raw and things like that, I think you're going to get plenty of nutrition. So I don't have a problem. I'm not a strict raw vegan. One of the concepts Dr. Greger has in his book is he has like green light foods, red light foods. I'm sorry, green light, yellow light, and red light foods. And so one of his points is, look, if putting some dip or something like that helps you eat more broccoli, then go ahead and use kind of a yellow or red light food if it helps you get more of the top foods. So I look at oil as kind of one of those foods that you should really use in moderation. And as my wife Elise has experimented, you can get so many foods that taste great by you kind of start taking less and less and less oil. And there's so many foods that taste great, and you can do with no oil. Like soups is another one. There's so many soups that I think taste fantastic, and you can put 0 oil in your soup. So there's like literally nothing bad. And he asked about the cooked versus raw. One of the other advantages to soups is you're not throwing away the water. Because if you just boil something and throw away the water, you're throwing away some of the nutrition. Whereas if you make a soup, you're leaving all of that in the soup. So, any other questions? Or maybe I'll shut up and let you guys eat. He has an incredible story because, like he said, was it a month or a few weeks before, he was given a clean picture of health, low cholesterol, everything looks great. A month later, he looks death in the face, complete blockage of the right main. If he hadn't been in the right place at the right time, he wouldn't be here. He would have been one of those statistics of those 699,000 people that die a year. And they wanted to do a stent on you, right? And you refused. So talk about a rebel. That takes a lot of courage to go against medical advice when they want to put these stents in you. And he said, I'll do it by diet. And you actually refused medical care, which really takes a lot of courage. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't do that. He did it. But and then he took on the lifestyle and took it very seriously.
Well, he did tell me that the only way I could do it was diet. He says, but most people can't. Most people don't. The interesting thing is his wife is a nutritionist, and she has no idea.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have the world's finest chef that's going to present here, next to the other chefs that are going to present. This is my wife, Elise, and what are you going to talk about?
I'm going to talk about the summer rolls with peanut sauce. Did you guys enjoy those? They're so simple to make. You're going to love that. Okay, can everyone see my workspace? No? Can you see it now? Can you see it? Okay, and I'll try to lift things up to show you. So let me first get this. This is called a spring roll wrapper. You can buy this at Super One. I bought a lot of these ingredients at Cash and Carry. Cash and Carry has a lot of things that are Asian. They're a restaurant supply store, and they just opened one in Coeur d'Alene on Appleway. So, yeah. So the ingredients on this is just rice. That's all it is. It's white rice. I've heard that they make brown rice paper. I've not seen it though. So I just dip it in water, hot water, and depending on how thick your rice paper is, this one happens to be thicker than what I'm used to working with. You have to leave it for a few seconds, maybe 30 seconds or so, till it gets a little bit soft. Let me tell you in the meantime about the rice noodles. Actually, these are not rice noodles. They're called vermicelli noodles, but they're not rice. You can buy rice noodles. These are actually bean thread. And this is what, I bought these again at Cash and Carry. I'm pretty sure Super One has them. This is what they look like. And I soaked them in hot water. So I got the water boiling, turned off the heat, put these in for a few minutes till they get soft, and then rinsed it in cold water. And this is about an hour and a half later, and they're still nice. They're not sticking together. Don't cook these. If you cook them, they'll get lumpy. Okay, so now I'm going to pull out my rice paper. See how soft it is and pliable now? Put it on your work surface. Start with lettuce. As much lettuce as you want. This is about one piece. Okay, and instead of doing matchsticks out of the cucumber, I just sliced it because it's faster that way, and you only have to put one slice in. This is baked tofu. You could put regular tofu, or you could put no protein if you want. This is what the baked tofu looks like. I got this at Cash and Carry as well. It's 3 blocks. I don't know if you can see, but there's 3 of them in here. Really nice product. It's just tofu that's been baked. Just tofu that's been baked. So then I sliced it like this. And then a little bit of carrots. You can grate them or buy them already grated. And then this is the key. You have to have this. This is what makes it taste fabulous. This is a mixture of 3 herbs. It's mint, cilantro, and basil. If you can find Thai basil, that's even better. Cash and Carry has Thai basil. I don't work for Cash and Carry and they didn't pay me, but I like Cash and Carry a lot. Okay, you put it all on there. Start to roll. Can you see this? I'm rolling from the top a couple times and then fold over the sides. The nice thing about this rice paper, even though it's a little bit thicker than what I'm used to working with, the nice thing about it is that it doesn't tear very easily, so you can pull on it. So then there you go. And if you do want to cut it, don't cut it right away. Maybe give it 5 minutes or so to stick really well. So anybody want to come up and make one? Marissa. Oh, and you know what? I forgot to put the noodles in there. Let's do that. So just a little bit. And the peanut sauce, do you guys like the peanut sauce? So you have that recipe too. And that's very easy to make. Okay, there we go. See how forgiving it is? I opened it up and made it again, and it's perfect. Okay, all right. So there you go. You can grab one. Grab it. It's soft, isn't it? Yeah. And it gets softer as you work with it too, because it has that water. It's going to keep absorbing it. And maybe cut off the bottom or take off the bottom end, because this can poke a hole through your rice paper if it's got like a big stem. Good job, you're a pro.
I was watching closely. I want to do this at home.
Like I said, the key is these herbs. You have to have them. Otherwise, it won't be a summer roll. It won't be a Thai summer roll.
Is that right?
That's right. And then the noodles, just a little bit. Less is more. Well, a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more. Good. Wow, look at you. You must make burritos a lot. Okay, now fold the sides in. And it sticks to itself, so it's very easy.
Right on.
Look at that. Good job. Right here is good. Anybody else? I have more ingredients for one more. Anybody else want to make one? Mason. Anybody else? No? Okay, yeah, please come up. What's your name? Vicky. Okay. Oh, I gotta get it soaking in here. I forgot to do that. I don't know if you've heard a lot about clean eating. There's a lot going on about clean eating. This is very clean eating. It's all just good raw veggies.
This is the way it starts.
Yeah, you can touch it here. It's quite brittle.
Really hard.
Yeah, but see how brittle?
Wow.
Yeah, it's hard. You can break this apart very easily because it's very brittle. But once you soak it, it starts to get soft. And it's going to continue to get even softer once by the time. That's soft enough for now, yeah, even though it doesn't totally feel like it. So start with lettuce. The order doesn't really matter, but it's nice to have your lettuce on first because then you can pile things on it. And then cucumber and tofu. The tofu's right there. The order doesn't matter. You can use spinach, you can use kale, you can use shredded cabbage. You can use, lots of different greens. And sometimes I add mung bean, what are they called? Sprouts to it. And I couldn't find them. Jackie, you bought them? I can't find them. They were before, but I don't know where they are. Oh. So one second, let's add some bean sprouts to that one. Because bean sprouts have that nice crunch. There's some bean sprouts there. Perfect. Great. And you can still, you know what, even after you're done with it, you can still kind of move it around like that.
Okay.
Because it's going to continue to stick to itself.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice job. Do you want to take it and eat it? I should have offered Marissa hers. You can come get it.
Look, it's falling apart. Look.
You can rewrap it if you'd like.
I did it, Carol.
So we need a little practice. If you haven't made lots of burritos before, just practice on this. It's fine. It's forgiving. And if one tears, just use the other one. I actually bought from Cash and Carry, I bought several of these. I have a couple of extras. I think I put them on that table. They're like $2 a packet. So if you want one, just leave $2 there and grab one. There's only 2 or 3. But I bought a few extras. Awesome. Thank you, Vicki. All right, so that was the summer roll. And we're going to do, let's see what's next. I think we're going to do the chapatis next. Rhonda, we're doing the chapatis next. So I'm going to clean up here while she gets over here.
I'm new at making chapatis, so I had fun learning, but I'm a bread maker. Are you bread makers? Yeah, so it won't be that hard. Okay. The recipe only makes 4. So unless you're living by yourself, you'll want to double or triple or quadruple the recipe. These chapatis that you had today were made ahead of time and stuck in the freezer. And then you can reheat them, put them in foil to reheat them. We're going to do this pretty easily because all the ingredients are pre-measured. I use half whole wheat and half unbleached white.
Would that work with gluten-free flour too?
You know, I think so. And it'd be worth a try. Okay, so I have my salt pre-measured, and I'm going to need water. Half a cup of water, please. And my onions are here. Okay, we've used little green spring onions. Thank you, Suzanne. And couldn't you taste them in there? You had so much food, you probably couldn't distinguish the taste, but they were really very good. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is add 2 tablespoons of oil. And I have measuring spoons. I had measuring spoons. Do we know where more measuring spoons are? Hank, I've got some over there. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of oil. I've mixed the salt and the onions and the unbleached white and the whole wheat flour in the bowl. And I'm just going to mix that up. And it's going to get kind of pull it back. You don't need to hear my breathing. Okay, once the oil is sitting in here, if you have to go away, it's better to go away now than after you get the water mixed in. Now's the time to lock your doors, lock the kids outside, take the phones off the hook, turn off the computer. And I'm going to turn my burner on to warm up my pan. And I'll turn it on low because, right there. All right, so now I'm going to put the water in, and I'm not going to add it all at once. Even though I will use all of it. And then you get to use your hands. Okay, and you'll think, this is not going to work. It is so sticky looking. So if you don't like to play in the mud or the bread dough, this is not the job for you. See how sticky it is? Okay, you're going to want to knead this. Can you even imagine you're kneading that? Okay, but it's going to be good, believe me. So you're going to do this for 5 minutes. And you'll think the time has never gone so slow in your life. All right. I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's ready. After I knead it for 10 minutes or 5 minutes, I'm going to let it sit for 10 to 20 minutes. And you'll think, not only let it sit, it's going to go in the garbage. It's so sticky. But you'll be surprised. This is what it looks like after the 10 or 20 minutes. And because this hand is really a mess, I got to wash it off. You still can hear my breathing. Okay, so I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of flour on the counter. And I'm going to take this dough and see it hardly leaves anything in the pan. So this is going to be good. And I'm just going to incorporate a little bit of flour in. You can do this with flour. If you want to use a little oil on your hands to keep it from sticking to your hands, you can. But you want it really soft. And the reason why you want it soft is you want the chapati to make little bubbles. And that means it's going to cook on the inside as well. All right. Just a little more. Okay, I'm going to cut this into 4 pieces, and we'll just bake one of them. You want to use a flour rolling pin. When I watched this on YouTube, she had the funniest shaped rolling pin. It was round, but the ends came really pointed, and I thought, well, maybe that's why my first batch didn't turn out, because I didn't have the same rolling pin. All right, you want a little flour on your rolling pin. Okay. Lift it up. Put it in our pan. And can you see? Can you see? We're going to watch, and I'll point out when the bubbles start. Okay. They shouldn't take over a couple minutes to do each one in the pan. And you'll probably leave it on the bottom longer than after you flip it, because it's going to start forming those bubbles. We hope. And if it doesn't, they still taste the same, right? All right. I don't know who's next. Me? The soup? Oh, that's easy. All right. The soup that we're going to demonstrate is the Tom Kha Tau, and it's the Thai coconut soup. And it calls for 3 cans of coconut milk. To cut down on the fat, you can use 2 cans of the Thai brand light coconut milk. And you don't want additives in your coconut milk, so make sure you read your labels, because not all of coconut milks are created equal. So we're going to put our broth. I just use the broth in the box. You can make your own broth if you want, or own vegetable broth. Another option is to use the organic, better than bouillon vegetable-based broth with 1 teaspoon for 4 cups of water. So that's an option too. I'm just going to put this in. And once I get these vegetables in, I'm going to saute the tofu, because I like the little sealed edge on the tofu so it's not smishy in your mouth. All right. And do you know I've used kale, and I've used 8 leaves of kale. And what I did with the kale, I folded it in half, and I thought I had some in the refrigerator to show you. I can't find it in there. I folded the kale in half and cut off the stem all the way down. And if you're using the how do you say that? Lacinato. If you're using the lacinato kale, you're going to have skinny ends at the end. So fold those in. So you folded it in half, you've cut off your rib, and then you fold them the bottom up. And now just roll. So you've got to roll about this wide. You're going to slice down the center of that roll, And then you're going to slice it into thin slivers. That's called chiffonade. You learn something new. So I'm going to pour all that in there. And it's a beautiful dark green. I have 1 head of broccoli. And I'm going to put it in. Okay. Then I have lemongrass. The recipe doesn't call for lemongrass, but the lemongrass, along with the lime in the soup, really gives a fun Thai flavor. So you just put the whole thing in. You're not going to eat it. You're not going to serve it to anybody. You want to cook with it, though. It's in? Oh, good. All right. And it says to bruise it. The tofu, the kale. I don't smash it down. I just put the whole thing in. And you don't have to do anything with your mushrooms, but just put them in the soup. We're going to put the cilantro in last. And I buy these wonderful little peppers for the soup. And I use 3 different colors of these peppers. And I could put this one in whole because I don't have a knife. Okay, there's that. We're going to use a tiny bit of oil. Not much. I would say a teaspoon and a half to braise the tofu. And I always buy extra firm tofu just because it's easier to work with. It doesn't break up in your hands, and when you're sauteing it, it stays nice shape. So, and I don't want to necessarily cook that. What you can add to the tofu, if you like, is about 1/8 to 1/4 of a teaspoon of turmeric. And it'll turn it a bright yellow, but that's one of those cancer-fighting herbs. The turmeric is good. So you can see we've got a lot of good stuff. It's already starting to steam in our soup. We're going to add the coconut milk later. We want the vegetables to cook a little bit in the broth. And that's not hard. I'm going to add the rest of the spices. I've got my curry, and it's going to go in. And if you want your soup hotter, just add more curry. Or you can put a pepper in there, but I use tamari sauce. So I've measured it out already, and I'm going to put that in. If you don't have tamari sauce, you can use plain old, well, this is really leaking, soy sauce. And it also calls for brown sugar. What's the brown sugar for? It cuts the acidity of the lime. So I'm going to put a tablespoon of brown sugar. You can. You can use coconut sugar. Okay, so then my lime is probably over there in that bag. I buy a whole bunch of ginger at a time and freeze it. And then it's really easy. I'm going to measure this. So it's really easy to grate. And you can use a microplaner when it's frozen. And this gets it really, really fine. So if you're putting it in a salad or something that you don't want a whole slice of ginger to bite into, use the microplaner. Yes, I have cut off the peeling. I've washed it, cut off the peeling, and there's peeling on the bottom. I leave that on, but ahead of time I cut off the peeling where I would be grating it. Yes. Well, thawed a little bit because I've had it out of the freezer for a little while. But okay, so there's my ginger. 2 tablespoons. And I actually can use a little more. I'm going to do a tiny bit more. The microplaner, Bed Bath & Beyond sells the microplaners. And probably the kitchen shop right here in town. If you like, you can put a little bit of salt. I happen to use Celtic salt at home. So I'm going to put about half a teaspoon on the tofu. You really don't need to because it's going to pick up the flavors. I use Celtic salt. Sometimes I use Himalayan, but Celtic or Himalayan. And why? Because it has a lot more minerals in it and your body processes it better. It doesn't seem to add the sodium. It's not straight sodium, so it's not as hard on people that have high blood pressure. Okay, that tofu is just about ready. And the soup is just starting to boil. Yeah, this is getting a little mushy now because it's been out of the freezer a little too long. But then you always have ginger if you keep it in the freezer. You can use a powdered ginger. The fresh ginger seems to have a lot more flavor. Yeah. Okay, you don't have to cook the soup long. My father-in-law lives with us and he's got Alzheimer's and he's got a thing about chewing. So if anything looks like it's going to be hard to chew, he'll chew it up and then spit it out. So I blend a lot of the soups and I can't do them so they're nice and green and beautiful like this because they're not cooked enough for him. Okay, I'm going to add my coconut milk, and I've got to get my lime. I grated 3 limes, and there's equivalent of 1 can or 3 cans of coconut milk. It's beautiful soup. And did you like it? All right, I'm going to say that's done. There's the tofu. It's a delightful soup. It's easy to make. And here's the cilantro. Cilantro is my husband's catnip. Okay. All right. Isn't that nice? Isn't that easy? And beautiful and tasty. And you would just simmer it for a few more minutes until the broccoli is a consistency that you like. And I'm going to get the lime to put in it later, but I think we'll be done. Okay?
Okay. So the Thai yellow curry, that's what we're going to do. This is a dish. It's one of my favorite things to order at a Thai place, and it's so easy to make once you have the curry paste that you can buy at Cash and Carry. Okay. And I'll read the ingredients off of the curry paste so you know. I mean, these are really good ingredients. Garlic, lemongrass, salt, shallot, galangal, which is like a ginger root, dry red chili, coriander seed, kaffir lime peel, curry powder, cumin, cinnamon, turmeric, cardamom, and nutmeg. A lot of the other curry pastes have shrimp paste in them. This is the only one that doesn't, so this is why I buy this brand. And it's the yellow curry only that doesn't have shrimp paste. Okay, very easy recipe. I start with, I'm doing the Thai yellow curry. I need something to stir with. Let's see. Okay. So I start with the coconut milk, 1 can. Let's see, is this? Yeah, it's on. Okay. Electric stoves are not my favorite. You can't control them very well, and you don't know if they're on or off. Okay. So here's what the curry paste looks like once you open it up. It's in a bag. And I just cut off a corner and just pour it in. It says to do 2 tablespoons. I like it spicier. I do it a little bit more, but for the one that we did here, we did 2 tablespoons so that everyone could enjoy it. The more you add, the more flavor you have, but it's also spicier. So,
What's the name of this soup?
This is the Thai yellow curry. Yeah. And then I just stick it back in and put this whole thing in my fridge. They do have smaller containers, not at Cash and Carry, but I've seen them smaller. If you can find them, it makes sense. Winteridge? Okay, great. Smaller would be better for someone that doesn't make curry all the time. So it does last forever in the fridge, truly. Way past the expiration date, like a year past or longer. I've done it. It's just spices. There's nothing to go wrong, to go bad. And because there's chili in it too, that's going to prevent anything bad from happening. Okay. So now the curry paste has pretty much softened and totally integrated. Then I add some water. And it's up to you how much water you add. Up to you. You could do this with just coconut milk. It's a lot richer, but it's also a lot more fat. And then I add potatoes, which I cut up earlier, and I put them in a little water so they don't turn dark. They still did a little bit. So I'm not going to wait for these to totally cook, but ideally you would wait for the potatoes to get to almost fork tender before you add the rest of the veggies. I also add a little bit of sugar. If you have palm sugar, that's the best, but it's hard to find. When I go to California, I buy bags of palm sugar and bring them back, and that's what I use. But it's not. But you could also use brown sugar. It does still have more of a caramelly flavor. So about 1 tablespoon. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah. And then I will sometimes also add turmeric. I didn't put that in the recipe, but sometimes I add turmeric to make it more yellow. And also turmeric is good for you, so you can add something that's even better for you. And then a little bit of salt. You can tell I'm not a good measure. How much turmeric for this recipe? About ½ a teaspoon. You don't want to taste it. You just want it to give it a nice yellow flavor. Color, not flavor. Another thing that I add sometimes, if I have limes, I'll take the peel off without the white part, just the green peel, and put that in here. It gives it a nice lime flavor, because in Thailand they use kaffir lime leaves or kaffir lime peel. We don't have that here. Okay, and we'll just pretend this has gotten to the almost fork tender stage. Taste it along the way. If it needs lemon juice, if it needs Thai food. So this curry should have 4 flavors. It should be a little sweet, a little salty, a little sour, and a little spicy. It should have all of those things. But you decide what the right ratio is for you and your family. I like it spicier, and my kids don't object. So, well, I have one that objects, but he can deal with it. And then the nice thing about this, and what I would like for you to take away from this, is that the sauce is what matters. You could use whatever vegetables you have on hand. I'm using frozen stir fry. You don't have to use frozen vegetables, but this is really fast. This can come together in less than 20 minutes. So there you go. That's it. Any questions?
What's the branding of the curry?
The brand is My Ploy. MAEPLOY. My Ploy. And Amazon has many other brands, but so you can shop at Amazon too. All right, that's it. I think we have Magda next. Okay.
So today we talked about a lot of different foods and we covered a lot of different vegetables. But how about spices? Because I asked Uma, who's the owner of Thai Nagari. Now, when someone told me that name, I thought it was Tiny Gary, but it's Thai Nagari. Get it? Anyway, so I asked her, I said, what is the secret to Thai food? And she says, the spices. So we want to cover today the different spices that are being used in these foods. And it wasn't very spicy, was it? But it was flavorful, right? And so there are different things that, a lot of people use that might be good for you or might not be good for you. Like, for example, it's best to make your own blends, of curry and of different pastes and spices. Just look up the ingredients, look up the list, and make your own. Because, for example, black pepper is an irritant. And every time I have it, immediately I just feel it. And so you use cayenne pepper. A little bit of hot cayenne pepper is actually beneficial for you. It's great for high blood pressure. What are some other things that you know already that are good that have been used in some of these recipes? Turmeric. So turmeric is known for its anti-inflammatory properties. And red pepper? I'm sorry? So like hot pepper, you mean? Oh, like the flakes? The pepper flakes. Yeah, so that's, again, some of them are irritant, and so I would use the cayenne, So turmeric, anti-inflammatory. It reduces stress and depression. Isn't that great news? It boosts your cognitive ability. It helps with GI disorders. It relieves menstrual and pelvic cramps, fatigue, nausea, and it detoxifies the body. That's turmeric. Isn't that great? Now, all of these things that I'm going to talk about are great for digestion, all of them. So, whenever we talk about any of them, they're wonderful for digestion, each and every one. Both the cruciferous vegetables, the different spices, and the different herbs. They're also great for cancer prevention, diabetes, heart disease. They boost your immune system, and a lot of these seeds that I will talk about are high in protein and have good type of fats. What are good fats? No, give me an example of a good fatty acid and a good fats. How about omega-3, right? And so a lot of these are great in omega-3, great omega-3 sources. How about another ingredient that we've had is garlic. What is garlic known for? Okay, antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral. It has allicin in it. When you press it or crush it, it releases the allicin. It's called allicin, allicin. And it actually will release that, and it's great fresh as well as steamed. It has good, all of these are good, have good properties fresh as well as lightly cooked. Although turmeric is best when it's well cooked. How about that? I won't keep you, but maybe another time I will tell you a little story. However, garlic oil is great for ear infections. Okay? So you want to use raw garlic on your skin, but you can use garlic oil. And if you want to run out the recipe, 10 cloves of garlic, peel them, put them in a cup of water, simmer it for about 45 minutes until it becomes dark, almost charred, not quite charred. And then you put it out, drain it, put it in a jar, and it will keep for a long time. Garlic oil. You put it on if you have bronchitis or any type of pneumonia or whatever. What is one thing that you have to remember with natural remedies? Takes time. So you have to be consistent, and you have to be do it frequently, right? So don't just say, I put it on once and I'm good for the week. No. Every 2 hours, if you're sick, if you have an infection, every 2 hours, just like antibiotics, because, bacteria, they proliferate, etc. Garlic also normalizes blood pressure, and it helps to reduce cholesterol levels. It's protective, again, against specific cancers such as the stomach, colon, and esophageal. And it's good for immunity, cough, cold, and asthma. How about ginger? We just talked about ginger, right? Ginger has great vitamins such as E, B, and C. So do others. But this in particular, minerals, iron, manganese, selenium, and magnesium. It's great for digestion. All of these are great for digestion. Okay? And yes, it's good for gas and bloating. Ginger is. It boosts the bone health and relieves joint pain. It also helps relieve menstrual cramps. And one thing I've noticed as I was doing the research to prepare for this is that a lot of these seeds in the different herbs and spices have manganese. Now, manganese is not a mineral that you find as readily, and yet we still are deficient. And magnesium, we may find it more readily in a lot of the green leafy vegetables. Manganese not, but it is in all of these spices. And so I thought that was interesting. Sesame. Now, if you're allergic to sesame, like I am, I get a rash, you want to watch out for it. But sesame has great, it's great in calcium. It's good to prevent constipation, and it reduces the sign of premature aging. Isn't that wonderful? It strengthens muscle tissue, hair, and skin, and it boosts oral health, cellular growth, and metabolic function. It also protects your DNA from radiation and chemotherapy, a source said. Cumin seeds have great vitamins like the A's and the B vitamins. The B vitamins are great for your nerves, right? For nerve regeneration, for stress, for anxiety. Minerals such as iron, manganese, and calcium also found in cumin. It helps eliminate phlegm and mucus. It maintains healthy skin, again, to prevent premature aging. It increases cognitive performance. That's cumin. It is a natural laxative, okay? And it relieves, again, stress, anxiety. It boosts the energy. It curbs hypoglycemia. And it removes toxins from the body. Okay, so two more, coriander and cardamom. Coriander seeds are high in omega-3s, as are others, but this one in particular. Great as an antioxidant. Again, vitamins B and C, the minerals. It has additional minerals, potassium, copper, zinc, and calcium, aside from the others that I mentioned. It helps to regulate blood sugars. It helps with weight loss. That's coriander. Great for your skin and the hair. And it is related to cumin, to cilantro, and parsley. And cardamom reduces colorectal cancer, nausea and vomiting. It's good for UTIs, urinary tract infections, and it improves blood circulation and cardiovascular health. It also helps to relieve asthma, sore throats, and hiccups. And so that's cardamom. So that's a little bit of, a few snippets about the different spices and herbs that we use. And I didn't introduce myself. My name is Magda Chokazan. Now the next person who will help us out, her name is Magda as well. So we put them together back to back so that we do not confuse you.
Okay, so I'm going to show you real quick how to do the palak chana. That's the curried spinach and chickpeas that you guys sampled today. That's a dish that's a lot of times made with cheese. It's called palak paneer. So you can use tofu if you don't want the chickpeas, but as we heard, the chickpeas are really good for us. They have lots of nutrients. So the recipe today was with chickpeas. Also, you can do kale instead of spinach, or you can mix some spinach and kale together. The taste will be a little bit different if you're using kale. It's more cruciferous broccoli tasting like, but it's still delicious. So we start off with first an onion, which I cut into pieces already. This is then I have some ginger here that I already cut up, shredded up. Some garlic. Okay. Is it better now? So this says about 4 cloves of garlic. That's about 4 or 5. Don't have to be exact. And it says half a cup of vegetable broth or water. So I cooked down, the recipe says to use frozen spinach. You can use fresh. I had fresh, and I cooked down about a pound of fresh spinach. Makes about the 12 ounces of frozen spinach. So I cooked it down, and the juice that's left over from the spinach, I'm just going to use that instead of the water or the broth. So you just blend this up really quickly. And then you put it in a pan to simmer it. So I just brought this electric skillet because it's easier, but any pan, pot, skillet will work. So while this is simmering, you want to add the spices, and ooh, these onions are strong. Ooh. Okay, so let's see, we have 1 teaspoon of cumin seeds. Two teaspoons of garam masala, and this is a mixture of Indian spices. You can buy this, I bought this at an Indian store, but you can buy it on Amazon, and somebody said that Super One has it, or Yolks has it in the bulk food section. So this is a mixture that has cumin, coriander, cardamom, nutmeg, cinnamon, ginger, bay leaf, caraway, and mace. Half a teaspoon turmeric. All right, and then you're supposed to add the spinach and let it cook. So this spinach is already cooked. We won't really need to have to let it cook. And then you mix up the cashews with some milk. So you can use soy milk or coconut milk. And I actually forgot the box of milk at home, so at least gave me some of this coconut milk. But you can use the soy milk, unsweetened soy milk that you can get from the store that you drink. This it calls for. And then some tomato paste. A couple of tablespoons of tomato paste. And nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast is optional, so I forgot to do that. Oh, and I forgot the coriander. So you blend the cashews and the milk and the tomato paste. Now the recipe calls to put this mixture into the blender and blend it up a little bit. But for me, it's a little more work to put everything back in the blender, so I have one of these, and I just put this in here and cream it as much as I want. So I'll just add this in here and use the stick blender. And then add the chickpeas, and you let it simmer for another 10 minutes. If it's too thick, you may add a little bit of water. This turned out pretty thick with the coconut milk. You can add a little bit of water to adjust the consistency, and you just add salt to taste. And that's it. Let it simmer, adding the chickpeas in, and you're done. So this can come together pretty quickly. In about 20 minutes you can have, and you can eat it with rice or with noodles. And the onion is the first ingredient on the list, and we know onion is not one of the more colorful vegetables, but the onion makes up and its nutrients makes up for the lack of presentation. The onions are very healthy. Some of the minerals that the onions have are biotin, manganese, copper, vitamin C, and even potassium. And also the onions are very rich in phytonutrients, which are also found like in carrots, and it talks about the flavonoids, the carotenoids, the lignans, and onions have even more carotenoids and polyphenols than carrots and then tomatoes. And also because all these nutrients in the onions are in the outer layers, when you use an onion, make sure you only peel off the papery part and keep as much of the exterior onion as you can and not throw it away. So this is it. You just puree a little bit in that chickpeas and let it simmer a little more, and you're done. Any questions about this? This is a really easy. Oh, I should plug it in if I want to. You wanna? No, I'm done. We can continue, and because we don't really need to.
Okay. Great job, Magda. Thank you. So we got one more presentation left. We're kind of cutting it short, but these ladies put so much preparation and so much work into it. They are awesome. So now we have the closest thing we have to authentic. We have Judy that just got back from India. Yeah, she was there for 4 months. So this is the last and final recipe. Thank you all for your patience, and I hope you learned something.
Okay. Okay. Is this on? Can you hear okay? Yeah. Thank you. So yes, my husband and I were in India and Nepal for 4 months, and we just got back the beginning of this month, and so we have learned very much. And as we came home and saw the Indian cooking class was going to happen, there is one Indian food that I really like in particular. I'll say in particular, but there is one main food that I like, and that is dal. That and rice are their main staples. They serve, I would say, every day, between low caste to high caste. Depending on funds, they might have more ingredients in it, but it is a staple. And I was sick for some time, got a foodborne illness, and as I began to be able to eat again, the place where we were staying, an orphanage, the cook there provided dal for me every day. And as I was able to begin to eat again, it was very nourishing, and I really appreciated the kindness that she had. And so I wanted to share a little bit about dal with you. My husband is a painter, and so we just went 11 different locations, and he was able to help in different ministries and orphanages in that sense, and then we also were available to do whatever else that came up. So it's good to be home, but we also, to experience another culture and to incorporate service along with travel has been very fulfilling for both of us. So he did come here in the very beginning, but there were a lot of people here, so he left. But anyway, we both say thank you for coming, and we appreciate you being here. So I wanted to point out a few things. In your booklet, under the Tadka Indian lentil stew, if you want to go to that page, that is the original recipe that I was going to try. I've never cooked dal before, just eaten it in those many different locations. So I tried this, but it did not taste authentic to me for the main reason of the seasoning in there. The garam masala It had spices in there that are not typical to my taste buds anyway from what we ate over there. But it's got good ingredients in it for sure. Then the page before that, Cooking Doll for Beginners, that was the closest that I was able to. I tried all these recipes, and we demonstrated them to my family, my extended family, our neighbor, one evening, Friday evening actually. And so they chose the one that they liked the best, and that's the one that I prepared tonight. But the Cooking Doll for Beginners is the one that seemed closest to the taste that I remembered. Minus it shows a red chili pepper in the picture, which all of the places we were at did not use that. They used low spice. So, and it also, I don't think, had curry leaves in it. But that was fairly similar. Then the page before that is a good recipe, and you can make it either, the first section here is how to make it with no oil, and then down at the bottom, I think most places do use a little bit of oil at least. 2 teaspoons of oil is quite sufficient to go ahead and saute the cumin seeds. One of them has mustard seeds, and it brings out the flavors a little better. And so after I won't take time to demonstrate, but I used both an Instant Pot, which again, like Dr. Soren mentioned, or one of the speakers, if you don't have one, you might want to invest in one because they are really excellent. And so putting the ingredients in that, it takes 10 minutes to cook. If you do it on the stove, it takes at least 30 minutes. So, but you put those in, and then at the very end, and you mash it. Also, one thing I will demonstrate that I learned is that you rinse the yellow split mung bean, they're yellow lentils, I guess, but you can also buy yellow lentils. So I picked the one that looked the closest to what I'd seen, and I got these at Winter Ridge. That was the one place that carried them. And so you then, after rinsing it 3 times in the running water, then soak them for 20 minutes. They will almost double in size, and then whatever quantity you do end up with, then you double that amount in water. Then add cumin seeds. Cumin seeds are what make a dal, the flavor of dal. I at first got cumin, and it's not the same. So the seeds are important. Then when I first made the first recipe and it didn't taste authentic, we contacted some people that we had eaten in their home over in India. And they called us back the next morning by Skype, and we said, what ingredients did you make in your dal that we ate that was delicious? So she gave those ingredients to me, minus the measurements. And so I can give you those if you want to write them down. It's what I ended up doing after I made all of these 3 and 4 kinds. I had a general idea then what the measurements were. And the one that she provided me is what I made tonight. And that is the one that my family selected as the most flavorful. And so that's why I chose that. But if you want that, it's a 1/2 cup of the yellow moong dal, and a 1/2 cup of onion, 3 large garlic cloves, 1/2 tomato diced, 1 teaspoon of green chili, and I have never used green chilies before. So I decided I should take out the seeds because I think that is where the spice is. If you want more spice, then keep the seeds in. I just know my fingers were hot after I took them out, so I think there's a little spice to them. And then a 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric, 1 teaspoon of cumin seeds, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So, and then you put it with your soaked, I'll call them lentils, and then you just put it in the Instant Pot. Set it on manual, and it automatically shows up 10 minutes, and you just wait till it goes through its cycle. That it's in the instructions here. One of the recipes did specify pearl onions, and I think that's more closely what they have in India. They looked like garlic to me, so what they were pearl onions. They just weren't round. Yeah. So, and what else can I tell you? So then on this recipe, after it's all cooked, then you mash it with a masher, and you can mash it completely, or you can leave a little bit of the lentils. And then in a little bit of oil, 1/2 a teaspoon of mustard seed, and 1/2 a teaspoon of cumin, and just saute that till it changes a little bit. You pour that in to the mashed dal. You pour in a tablespoon of chopped cilantro, and then it's done. So I have quite a quantity, and so some of it I'm going to donate to the Agape for this week. I have no idea if this freezes well, but I think I might try that. So anyway, thank you so much. Do any of you have questions?
I want to thank you so much for coming. I want to mention one thing in the cucumber raita. That's something that's typically made with yogurt. The one that you ate tonight, cashews. And if you don't have a Vitamix blender, then you want to soak them in water for 20 minutes before you blend them, and they'll be very smooth and creamy. And the flavors of the raita really do best if you let it sit for 10 hours overnight before you serve it. And then you won't get any cashew flavor. The cashews tend to be a little sweet. So it's got the lime juice in it, it's got the cumin seed in it, but to not have to have yogurt and to be able to make it out of cashews was interesting. And didn't you like it? It was really good. The other thing I want to mention, downstairs, Cher and Mike are at the table with a vegetarian cookbook on Tuesdays from 11 to 1:30. We have our Agape Cafe open, and anyone is welcome to come and get a free meal. Our meals are always vegetarian. This is a recipe book that Cher is selling of some of the food that has been donated, recipes, casseroles, whatever, soups that have been donated for Agape that people have said, that's really good, can we get the recipe? So she's selling the books downstairs, and I just want to thank you so much for coming. It was fun to do this for you today.
Thank you very much. And if you have not written your email, please let me know. And Dr. Soren has a flyer for you for Dr. Horst Mueller, our next event coming up May 11 through 19. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be marvelous. Dr. Mueller is a fabulous researcher and speaker. And so you want to catch the interview this Wednesday on 1440 or 1400, depending where you're at noon with Dr. Soren.